Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire.
Oh, you're trying to bring me down and run me out of town. You're taking what you want, but you can't take my rhythm now. I'm walking to my own beat, just gonna be me. I'm not replicating nobody. You wanna be like me.
So what does a young lady with a college-level softball injury, she's playing for NC State, and had a life-changing injury to her brain in a softball accident, had to work her way back to where she could even get to who she used to be. What could somebody like that have to say to us? Well, she didn't have only that something to say to us. She gave a commencement speech at NC State University in 2023. You could find Kelsey O'Connor NC State commencement address on YouTube. If you go on YouTube, you get to actually read along with the manuscript. That's one great thing that YouTube does. In fact, when you listen to this podcast, you can go back and read it, the transcript. I wanted to share this with you because her commencement speech was this. Catches you right off the bat. You don't know any of this stuff about her. She says, everybody's asked the same question that everyone has been asking. Here's the question asking us, what are you going to do next? As I'm sure all of you have been asked, and I'm quoting her here, the same exact question, what are you going to do? That's a very different question from who are you going to be? What I want us to consider is what does it mean to be a human being, not a human doing? And then she goes into herself. Coming to NC State, I had a lot of labels, she said, that I was proud of. A D1 athlete, softball player, researcher, social work student. If you were to ask me about my identity, I would have listed all these tangible things. But during my junior year, I suffered a traumatic brain injury. So when she gives this speech, those who know her, and she would be known pretty well if she was a D1 athlete there at NC State, and it's going to be a large graduation commencement. As she starts talking about this being a human being as opposed to a human doing, what a profound statement. Has she not gone through the type of injury she went to? And what I recommend you do with your graduates, they need to see her give this speech. It is worth it for your graduates to see and hear. It's worth it for parents and church members and volunteer staff. It's so good on the fact that we are to be human beings and not human doers. What are you going to do? What are you doing with your life? That is such a profound question. No. What are you being with your life? What kind of human being are you going to be? Someone was talking about finance. They said, if you want somebody to help you in your finances and stocks and different things like that, he says, you want to find the person that you trust and believe in, not the person who has the best track record. You might not be able to trust them, but you want a long-term relationship with someone that you trust and know is honest and believes in you and you believe in them. Now, that's in finance. That's just in one area. How much more should we be doing that? Jesus talks about the different fruit of different trees and, how a fig tree only produces figs. Another type of fruit tree only produces that sort of fruit. And that those who are evil, they come from evil trees, evil connections. Those who are good come from good connections. And the one thing that we say over and over to ourselves and to students, you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And what we tell people is try to have more than 1 or 2 mentors, have 3 or 4 or 5 mentors, because you want to get the best parts of them. If you have one mentor, you're going to get the good and the bad. All of us have good and bad. All of us have good points and bad points. But are you a human being or a human doing? Are you more about what you are doing? And well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Well, what happens if it's stripped away like it was with Kelsey? And all of a sudden you find yourself, she said, my career was completely over from that moment on. No matter how I recovered, it was over. It was life-changing. She said, and after that, I started saying, I'm putting labels on people that do not matter. She says, if I were to tell you about my roommate who is an engineering major, and you were to ask me about her, she said before I'd say, oh, she's an engineering major. She's going to be doing all these things. She said, instead, the human being that she is, she loves her family. She's passionate about helping people. She's passionate about, and then she starts listing all of these human being qualities, internal characteristics she's talking about. And so when you talk to your students, you let them listen to this, listen to it several times, have some questions ready for them to break down into some small groups. Maybe you want to do this with an adult group. Maybe you've got parents that are getting ready for their students to graduate. You need to have a parent meeting, a parent class, maybe at least one session, and show this video. It is that, to me, that amazingly powerful. In correspondence with that, I heard and I just looked it up and he still didn't say his name. I can't remember his name, but he was like a famous actor, English, and he was reading from Rudyard Kipling. Now, I'd hear this quote all the time, and I would go like, yeah, I've heard it. But when I read it, and especially in context with what Kelsey O'Connor talks about, I was just kind of blown away by this Rudyard Kipling poem. And it says this: if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. I laugh with some of those things because I'm so relating with that. And I know you are. There's times where just things are blamed on us, but he's talking about character, incredible character, human being as opposed to human doing. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and ask it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and send you to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Now, let me tell you, if you break that down, if you look at each one of those sentences, and that poem is just powerful. I've heard people, they teach it in school, they let you go through that. But when you get through life and you start facing the pain of living and family and friends and failures and winnings and victories and failures again, because everything's about up and down. You look at the stock market charts and it's up and down, it's up and down, it's up and down. But they said, no matter how low it's been, even in the 1920s during the Great Depression, If you look at the stock market, it still, no matter how low it went, always came back up. No matter how low it always get, to this day, it's the highest it's ever been. The same thing happens in life in general. And yet we deal with our life and say it's all about the wins. If we didn't win, but look at all the losses, they're horrible. No, the losses are part of the wins. You don't get the wins without the losses. Great men of God, great men of the world, and women and great men and women of the world and of the Bible, and who are spiritual now, know this, that the failures are as big as the wins. The failures must always be the foundation to build again and build stronger and build better. How do you think we learned how to build better buildings during earthquakes? Some very good buildings were torn down, and they analyzed, how can we make better buildings? How many better hurricane-proof homes are there now and buildings because hurricanes destroyed some very, very good and very well-built buildings? Because of that storm, they were able to analyze and rebuild. Now, let me tell you, it's painful. It's painful at any age to be broken and everything that you have to be destroyed and you having to build back. But what about this devastating brain injury that Kelsey O'Connor went through? And for her not only to achieve her goal of graduating from NC State, but also to be the keynote speaker for NC State Commencement graduation address. And knowing that she's building from there and her whole perspective on people and life is different. Jesus does that with you, and he does that with your students. Let them watch this. Let your parents watch it. You watch it. And I always say watch it over and over again and give them some foundations and future going. Think about who you want to be, not what you want to do. What you want to do is going to come, but who do you want to be in the process? Because we can do all the greatest things in the world, whether spiritual or physical or emotional or whatever, fulfillments for entire nations, but that doesn't mean that we're still being the authentic and good person that God intended us to be. And have we become and still remain the person in Jesus Christ that he created us to be with a new creation when we ask Jesus into our heart? There's so much more to talk about on this topic. But if you will go and see this Kelsey O'Connor commencement speech, it, to me, was amazing. Once again on YouTube. All right, Youth Worker on Fire, I hope this helps you. May God be with you. May his strength and power be yours as you serve and as you fight for what is good, because you are in a spiritual warfare. If you're trying to cause good in the world, you're trying to promote the person of the Lord Jesus Christ, you are in spiritual warfare. There is no avoiding it. But greater is he that is in you than he who's in the world. So go and know that you are powerful because he is the most powerful being in the universe. He is the Lord God. All right, go for it. Be a human being.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.